What's up, everyone? This is the Next Day Podcast, episode 81 with Mikel and
Tanyka.
where we have conversations on different topics. So we're going to do another episode, which will have 3 topics in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And, um, yeah.
Yeah.
What are the 3 topics of this episode, Tanika?
So we have a deadly flesh-eating disease that is running rampant in Japan. Trigger warning for this one. I'll do another trigger warning when we start the actual topic. Elderly couple opt in for euthanasia together, which
Mm-hmm.
sounds very notebooky, except not.
Right.
And so this is technically 4 topics because we're going to do an update on the Body Shop, which we talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to talk toxic chemicals are being found in tampons. So that's what
Right.
we're talking about.
Okay. Let's
So
get on to it. Yeah.
we'll get into it. So 1 second. Okay. So you may have heard reports, potentially, of a flesh-eating bacteria that's spreading in Japan, referring to an illness that can occur with, oh boy, this word, streptococcal toxic shock syndrome, STSS. That's what I'll be calling it moving forward. Media reports indicate the country has seen more than 1,000 cases of STSS in the first 6 months of 2024, more than the total for all of 2023. However, these cases have not yet been published in peer-reviewed journals, so reports may not be entirely accurate, which sounds kind of reminiscent of COVID a little bit. The fact that, like, why isn't this not being properly recorded? I mean, even COVID can't be always properly recorded. But just initially of, like, we weren't really aware of what was going on. We were
Mm-hmm.
kinda hearing rumblings,
Mm-hmm.
but, like, I don't like that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's try not doing that again.
Mm-hmm.
So, STSS is caused by, here we go, this word again, Streptococcus pyogenes
Mm-hmm.
bacteria, or Strep A. That sounds so much easier to say. These bacteria are quite common, but certain strains can cause more serious illness called invasive group A streptococcal disease. Since 2022, many countries, including Australia, the United States, and countries in Europe, have noted a rise in severe invasive group A strep strepto. We're just gonna call it strepto because this word is ridiculous. Disease. The
Mm-hmm.
surge of is part of an overall increase in strep A infections.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like me and have no clue what STSS is,
Mm-hmm.
here's what it is. Or no, here's who gets it, not so much what it is, but like here who gets it. So at any time, many people will be quote unquote colonized with strep
Mm-hmm.
A, meaning the bacteria is living harmlessly in their throat or in their skin. That's what I was thinking. I hear strep, I think throat. Um,
Mm-hmm.
strep A also causes sore throats. Okay, now I'm concerned because I've had a few sore throats and I'm like, what is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
Um, no skin issues though. Strep A also causes sore throats, which is strep throat and skin infections, sometimes for reasons that still aren't entirely clear. Strep
Mm-hmm.
A causes invasive infections like pneumonia, nasty flesh-eating skin infections, and STSS. In these ways, strep A is an important cause of sepsis, a term which broadly refers to a life-threatening infection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. STSS is the most severe strep A disease, though fortunately it's really rare. It mostly affects young children and the elderly, but causes do occur at all ages. Pregnant people might also be at higher risk, including soon after delivery. So, what are those symptoms? So, you are aware. In SDSS, the bacteria produces a toxin that can result in overwhelming immune response in some people. The illness can progress to become life-threatening in a matter of hours and has a high mortality rate. Up to 40% of people who develop SDSS will die. This
Right.
is scary. Um, However, the early signs and symptoms of SDSS can overlap with common viral illnesses, particularly in children, making it hard to diagnose. Mhm. Um, Symptoms are vague and early invasive group A strepto infections, things
Mm,
like fever, rash, and nausea. But it's important to look out for signs of sepsis, which suggests something more serious might be going on. Signs of
mm,
severe invasive group A strepto disease, including STSS, are similar to those seen in other bacterial causes of sepsis, such as, Jesus Lord, why does medical things have to be so hard? Um,
yeah. Yeah.
meningococcal disease.
Mhm, mhm.
These include lethargy, drowsiness, fast breathing, a rapidly changing rash, aching muscles, and confusion. SDSS sometimes co-occurs with a condition called necrotizing fasciitis, I think, also caused by strep A, which is the flesh-eating presentation of the infection. This is when
Right.
the skin cells die in response to the toxins produced by the bacteria. Parents of young children should trust their gut if you're worried your child is sicker than they usually would be with a
Mhm,
common bug, and particularly if they have cold limbs, a red rash like sunburn, or are less responsive, seek medical attention quickly at your nearest emergency department. And
mm,
hopefully they don't keep you waiting for a million hours because
mhm.
God only knows. Studies suggest certain more virulent strains of Strep A might be one part of the current STSS surge. Also, in 2020 and 2021, at the height of the COVID pandemic, when there was less close contact between people, there was likewise less exposure to Strep A. Because again, I haven't had strep throat, but it is contagious.
Mhm,
So that makes sense.
mhm,
And other bacteria and viruses. So for younger children especially, that meant they didn't build up the partial protection against bad strep A infections that comes from repeated exposure. With
mm,
more human contact from 2022 onward, there has been more transmission of strep A with children more vulnerable to contracting more severe disease, including STSS.
mm,
So this is not unique to Japan. Although rare, we've seen many cases of STSS in Australia and elsewhere. So, how is it treated and how can it be prevented? Strep A can be killed by penicillin. Hopefully, other things too, because if you're allergic to penicillin, like my dad is,
mhm,
like, that's also possible. But one of the oldest and most widely available antibiotic, penicillin. So, when STSS is diagnosed early, antibiotics usually prevent most serious complications. Other medicines like hemoglobin might be required to put the brakes on an out of control immune response, and patients often need support in an intensive care unit. There's no vaccine to prevent STSS and other strep A infections, unlike other bacteria like meningococcus, whatever that was, or me- pneumonia, or some, I don't even know what these words are. It looks like pneumonia, but it's like pneumonococcus,
yeah, yeah.
which are the National Childhood Immunization Program. Hmm. Researchers in Australia and around the world are working hard to try to find a vaccine to prevent strep A infections. Serious strep A infections like STSS often follow viral infections, especially chickenpox and influenza. That is really interesting. Because
Mhm.
again,
Yeah.
it's supposed to look like a rash.
Yeah.
Anyone who is like our age who didn't get a vaccine,
Mhm.
the chickenpox can look like a rash.
Yeah, it
And
does. Yeah, it does. It
right?
does. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Influenza. So staying up to date with vaccines in the national schedule, which includes chickenpox, y'all.
Mhm.
If as long as you believe in vaccines, I'm not gonna say you should and shouldn't. I mean, I had chickenpox, I survived. But
Mhm.
if these kids they say it has chickenpox vaccines,
Mhm.
use it
Mhm.
because I'm old enough that I didn't. Um, and ensuring you receive the seasonal influenza vaccine reduces the risk, which, I mean, I don't believe in the flu shot, but anyways. Um, Strep
Mhm.
A can be spread via large respiratory droplets or direct contact with infected people or carriers. Simple hygiene measures like hand washing, I think we should have this down pat with hand washing and covering your cough. Again, we should be pros. Reduce the amount of strep A circulating in the community.
Mhm.
So, if you are planning a trip to Japan, you don't have to worry about canceling your trip or anything like that. So, SDSS is a rare but serious complication of strep A infections, as we've been saying, which could occur in humans anywhere. So, unless you're trekking alone to the South Pole, you're a or at a very similar and very low risk of contacting a serious infection. So just make sure you're up to date with immunizations, including the seasonal flu vaccine. Always practice good hand hygiene and remember the signs of severe bacterial infections that require urgent medical attention. You should be fine, hopefully. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay, let's go to the next one. So, again, trigger warning, just because we are talking about death and euthanasia. If you need to skip this part, I would just skip ahead maybe 5-ish minutes and you can go to the next
Mhm.
topic. Um, so let's get to it. So, a couple from the Netherlands opted to end their lives with euthanasia together. After meeting in kindergarten, Jan Farber, 70 years old, and his wife, Els van Lingingen, who was 71, from Friesland, had a lifelong partnership, like literally. The couple was married for nearly 5 decades. Jan worked as a sports coach while Els was a primary school teacher. However, Jan struggled for years with back pain, and even after surgery in 2003, he saw no improvements. His chronic pain ultimately left him unable to work, and he often spoke about euthanasia, telling his family he didn't want to live with his physical limitations. In November 2022, Els was diagnosed with dementia. This is very good, she told BBC, pointing to her body. But this is terrible, she added, pointing to her head. With both of their conditions declining, Jan's discussion of euthanasia became more of a reality. The pair
Mhm.
ultimately opted for duo euthanasia to end their lives together. The
Mhm.
procedure became legal in the Netherlands when the Termination of Life on Request and Assisted Suicide Review Procedures Act was passed in April 2001,
Mhm.
taking into effect in April 2002. With its passing, the Netherlands became the first country in the world to make euthanasia legal. So, the country's official government website states that the procedure is performed by a physician who administers, quote, a fatal dose of a suitable drug to the patient on his or her express request. Requests for euthanasia often come from patients experiencing unbearable suffering with no prospect of improvement. Their request must be made earnestly and with full conviction. They see euthanasia as the only escape from the situation. However, patients have no absolute right to euthanasia, and doctors no absolute duty to perform it. The couple made the decision before Elle's dementia worsened, and she was no longer able to make the decision on her own. Because I would assume you would need to have capacity in order to do this. Quote, if you take a lot of medicine, you live like a zombie. So with pain I have and Elsa's illness, I think we have to stop this. When he said, quote unquote, stop this, he told the outlet that he meant stop living. I've lived my life. I don't want pain anymore, he continued. The life we've lived, we're getting old. We think it has to be stopped. There's no other solution, Els said. Their son, who asked to remain anonymous, told BBC that it was a strange day losing both of his parents at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Quote, I remember we were having dinner in the evening and I got tears in my eyes just watching us all having that final dinner together. The final half hour was difficult. The doctors arrived and everything happened quickly. They followed their routine and then it's just a matter of minutes. Doctors administered the lethal medication to Jan and Els on June 3rd, and the couple died together at a local hospice.
Mm.
And that's that.
That's it.
That's it.
All
I
right.
I don't my views on euthanasia, actually, funny enough, I did do a project on this back in college with a friend of mine. I don't remember what class we were doing, but anyways,
Mhm,
um,
mhm, mhm.
and I mean, everyone has the right to do what they choose, I guess. If you want to do it, at least as long as it's legal, I guess,
Yeah.
fine. But I don't know.
Mm,
I don't know.
okay.
All
The
right,
next the next
let's
topic.
move on to the next topic, and this is the
Yeah.
update on the body shop. So, an Ontario judge has authorized a sale process which could see the Body Shop Canada land new owners.
Mhm.
During a virtual court hearing, Justice Peter Osborne granted an application from the retailer, we'll just say that, which wanted to be able to engage with potential buyers who could keep the business afloat. The application said there was no viable alternative other than a sale to keep the business going. The
Mm,
approval marks a new chapter in the cosmetic retailer's continuing fight for survival, which began earlier last year when its parent company, a European private equity firm, stripped it of cash and pushed it into debt, forcing it to close 33 stores, which we did talk about, and lay off about 200 workers. The arrangement and a separate creditor protection process undertaken by the parent company left the Body Shop Canada scrambling to source inventory and find a way forward. By April, an affidavit from the head of the retailer's Canadian operations, Jordan Surley, said he had seen a sufficient level of interest in the business to believe the company should pursue a sale. Mr. Surley did not name who was interested in buying the business. That's been in Canada now since 1980.
mhm.
The chain's lawyers also did not divulge potential names, but said 12 parties had come forward with interest in buying the brand, with some overlap between UK bidders and those open to a Canadian purchase.
Right.
Any deal they reach depends on the parent company cooperating because the UK business oversees the chain's licenses and has long managed finances and inventory for its
Mhm.
international arms. Natalie Renner, a lawyer for the Body Shop Canada, said in court. It is possible the UK business will want to sign franchise or licensing agreements with parties in Canada, she said, but she noted she's unsure of the parents' preferred route because it is also up for sale. Miss Renner, however, has heard from the parents' lawyer that its own sales process is well advanced and could culminate soon. When it comes time to parse through bids for the Canadian business, one lawyer said the body shop might not have much leverage, saying, quote, candidly, the company is not in a great bargaining position. This was said by David Bish, who is a lawyer for Cadillac Fairview, one of the Body Shop Canada's landlords, told the court. So he explained that if a bidder is offering $1 million for the Canadian business, but the UK parent will only cooperate with another putting forward $1. The Canadian arm might have to take the lesser bid. Even though management has done a quote unquote good job of keeping the company going and his client doesn't oppose a sales process, Mr. Bish said he has long viewed the Body Shop Canada's recent proceedings as exponential. So that's basically that. That's the update.
Okay.
So
That's
we'll see how that goes. We'll
yeah.
keep
Yeah.
updating as things progress, whatever
Okay.
that's concerned.
All right. Okay.
On to the last topic. Now, this is obviously a topic that Mikel does not personally understand or deals with. Um,
Mhm.
Also, I don't either. I don't use tampons. But a new study of 30 tampons from 14 brands finds they contain toxic metals like lead and arsenic.
Okay.
Saying,
Hmm.
despite this large potential for public health concerns, very little research has been done to measure chemicals in tampons, said
Mhm.
lead study author Jenny A. Shearston, a postdoctoral scholar at the University of California, Berkeley. To our knowledge, this is the first paper to measure metals in tampons. Concerningly, we found concentrations of all metals we tested for, including toxic metals like arsenic and lead. Shearston's team evaluated levels of 16 metals: arsenic, barium, calcium, cadmium, never heard of that one, cobalt, chromium, copper, iron, manganese, mercury, nickel, lead, selenium, strontium, never heard of that one too, vanadium, and zinc. They found metals in all types of tampons, though concentrations varied by where the tampons were purchased, either US or Europe or UK. Organic versus non-organic and genetic versus name brand. There's genetic brands. Okay. Um
Uh, I heard that there were genetic brands out there. Term,
Beats the hell out of me
yeah,
because I don't use genetic brands when it comes to
yeah,
feminine products. I use name
yeah,
brand.
yep.
Lead concentrations were higher in non-organic tampons, while arsenic was greater in organic tampons. The findings were published this week, or not this week, but yeah, were published in the journal Environment International, if you want to see more of that. 34 million American women use tampons, a lot, often for hours at a time for several days. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, okay, like I said, I don't use tampons. I know many people who do, um, or have at some point. I never did, but you're supposed to change them more often than
Yeah,
they say you're able to keep them in there.
yeah. That's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it you can leave it in there for like 8 hours,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not recommended for many, many different reasons, not even just because of
Mm-hmm.
this. Um, like if you use like a pad, then yeah, you can probably get away with that depending on what day of your menstrual you're on. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like you can do that, but still not recommended
Mm-hmm.
to do that. But um, the authors of the latest study say they need to research if the metals are contributing to any negative health effects.
Mm.
Lead is
Okay.
a particular concern. Any lead
Yeah.
that leaches out of a tampon can lead to numerous adverse neurological, renal, cardiovascular, hematological, immunological, reproductive, and developmental effects, which we have talked about. The It can cause infertility for one thing, in women. We've talked about that in other stuff with lead. Um, Lead is stored in the bones. Didn't know that part. Replacing, oh, Okay, let me say this over again. Lead is stored in the bones, replacing calcium, and can be retained in the body for decades. Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
study,
crazy.
it is crazy.
Yeah.
Study co-author Catherine Schilling, an assistant professor at Columbia University's Mailman School of Public Health, explains, quote, although toxic metals are ubiquitous, we are exposed to low levels at any given time. Fine. Our study clearly shows that metals are also present in menstrual products and that women might be at a higher risk for exposure using these products. What
Hmm.
do you propose we do? Like, what do you propose y'all, we all need to just use Diva cups or period
Yeah.
underwear. That's what we
Yeah.
need to do. Anyways, tampons are at a particularly worrisome source of chemical exposure because the skin of a vagina has a higher potential for absorption than skin elsewhere on the body. Great to know. As the study notes, quote, vaginally absorbed chemicals do not undergo first pass metabolism and detoxification via the liver and directly enter systematic circulation. Great. Exposure to and absorption of metals are known to increase the risk of dementia, infertility, diabetes, and cancer. Sakes. Yeah. Um, so metals can compromise fetal development and damage the liver, kidneys, brain, and cardiovascular, nervous, and endocrine system. Metals can be introduced into tampons in several ways. The raw materials of cotton, rayon, or viscose may be contaminated during production. So it's like, as women, no matter what we do, like I've used cotton, I've used whatever, depending what it, there's no winning. That's what this article is telling me, anyways. Tampons can also be contaminated by water during the manufacturing process, or metals may be deliberately added for whitening, antibacterial agents, odor control, or lubrication. Toxic metals aren't the only danger posed by tampons. Toxic shock syndrome, commonly associated with their use, affects 1 in every 100,000 people. It can cause severe organ damage or even death. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration classifies tampons as medical devices, but the agency has said it, quote, does not clear or approve individual materials that are used in the fabrication of medical devices. In 2019, New York became the first state to make ingredient labels on menstrual products mandatory. Shearston hopes that the results of this study lead to reforms that ensure safer, better tampons are available to those who use them, saying, quote, I really hope that manufacturers are required to test their products for metals, especially for toxic metals. It would be exciting to see the public call for this or to ask for better labeling on tampons and other menstrual products. So that's it. That's it for
Okay.
me.
All right. That's cool. Okay.
Oh, not cool, but yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean. Cool as in like,
it's when it comes to menstrual products,
yeah. Yeah.
it's not the first time we've dealt with things like this,
Hmm.
or there could be things that are dangerous in pads or whatever. I know
Yeah.
things have
Yeah.
been
Health
improving over.
concerns. Yeah.
Yeah, like again, I've been having a period for almost 30 years.
Hmm.
Um, but
Yeah.
even like always products, there were
Hmm.
issues. I stopped using them. I started using them again. So it's you kind of go through that, but you know,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. All right. All right. Just I guess we'll have an update for that as well in the near
I'm
future.
sure as time goes on, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So this ends episode 81 of the Next Tape podcast. The Next Tape podcast is available on all podcast platforms. We also have a website called Tanika.
nexttakepodcast.podpage.io.
And where else are we at?
Uh, to Facebook and Instagram at Next Take Podcast and Twitter and TikTok at Next Take Pod.
And you can contact us in an email at mikeltanyka@gmail.com. That is mikeltanyka@gmail.com. So we talked about like 4 topics. I think Tanika can, skim through that right now.
We did the update on the body shop. We
Mhm,
talked about the tampons. We talked about the
mhm,
couple who opted for euthanasia.
mhm.
And that first topic again, always, I never remember. I never remember.
It's all good.
Yeah, we'll
It's all
just,
good.
yeah.
If yeah, just listen to this episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. And yeah, anything else you want to say, Tanika?
Um, no, I mean, we just have our next Women's History Month episode coming up
Yeah,
next week. Or
cool.
no, this
Yeah,
week. This week.
yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. So I'm Mikal, and
And I'm Tanika.
we're out until
This Thursday.
Easter.
Or
All
Wednesday
right.
or Thursday.
Okay. All right. Peace. Peace, guys.
Bye.